Yo, what's up, good people? I wanted to do a quick video that walks us through the Git flow that we're going to use in class. And for anyone else out there, if you are new to Git and GitHub, this is also going to sort of give you a tutorial on how to use both of the tools, sort of a dumbed down version, if you will. So first off, let's start off with a quick difference between Git and GitHub. A lot of new beginners to coding tend to get those two mixed up. So Git itself is a version control tool. So it is the tool that we're using in the command line, that little box with all the text that's going to give us the ability to do some of these Git commands. If you have a Mac, this is already going to be pre-installed. If you have a Windows PC, then you're probably going to have to go and download the Git client. GitHub is the place where we store all of our code. It is the cloud, and this is where all of your code is going to live. And so Git gives us the ability to interact from our machine with GitHub, the repository or the account. With that being said, let's go ahead and start over here inside of GitHub. So in your GitHub, you are going to want to create a new repo. So I'm going to create a new repository. If you click the plus, go here to new repository. And I'm going to choose myself as an owner. It may already default to you depending on how many accounts or organizations you are a part of. And then you're going to give this some sort of unique name. So I'm going to call this dev u tutorial. It tells you that it's available. You could give a brief description. I'm going to make it public so that it's viewable. And then I'm going to initialize a README file. And the README file is just a markdown file that comes with to sort of give an introduction, an overview of what the project or the repository has. And then usually this is used for documentation about your project, your program, your application, or whatnot. After all that is done, I'll go down and go ahead and create a repository. And there we have it. We have our repository. It's ready. We also have our README. Again, this is markdown, and we can go in and edit this and add some things to it and then go on from there with commits. But continuing on with the Git flow, right? So now we have our GitHub set. Now that we have GitHub set, you're going to go over to your local machine. First off, you're going to clone or copy. You're going to copy this so that we can clone it. We're going to do a clone. And what I mean by clone is we're going to take the code that lives here, all the files in the structure that lives here in GitHub, and we're going to bring this to our local machine. That way it gives us the ability to work and do changes locally before we push it back to what's happening up here. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this. And then from there, you're going to open your terminal. All right, over here in the terminal, I say that it's best practice that you know exactly where this code is going to go or this directory is going to go. And so what I would do is I would, first of all, look at all the files that is currently at this level. So if you do an ls and press enter, it will list all the files that you have available. And this is the same thing you would see in your file explorer where you would see all of your files. So in here, I would advise that you create a directory or folder and you just name it code. That way, you know that all the code that you're going to create, you just put it in that folder or whatever you want to call it. Just make it something that's memorable. All right. And then to change to that, you'll do a CD, which means change directory. I'm going to go into code. And as you see now, it tells me that I am in code. And if I do a ls on that, it doesn't show me anything because I don't have anything in this folder currently. And this, now that I'm in this directory, this is where I want to clone this repository. So I'm going to hit clone. And now if I do an ls, I'll see that it has a folder named after this repository called dev.u tutorial. From there, I would come over and I would open my VS Code. And in VS Code, this is where I would do the rest of my Git commands and all the work. It's already in one tool, so I don't need to have the terminal up or Git bash up while I'm doing my edits. So I would go to open and it will open up that entire folder over here with whatever files that are in there. So right now there's my README. It's just dev.u tutorial. So in here, you're going to go up to the top of your screen. You probably can't see it on my screen, but you're going to go to view and then look for where it says terminal. And there it should open up the terminal within VS Code. And then you can also do your Git commands within here. So within here, I'm going to create a branch, my feature branch. Now, a feature branch is just the branch that you're going to work on to make whatever the edits are or updates or features for one specific thing. And then once you're done with that feature, best practice is get rid of that branch. And when you're going to start on new work, a new feature under a different scope, create a branch for that. That way you sort of keep your work and your flows organized. So here we're going to create a branch and we'll use the command git switch -c, which means create and switch to this branch. And then you give the branch a name. So I'll just call this Hemery branch. Typically, some of the best practices, whatever the feature is that you're working on, say for instance, in this, let's say that I'm creating an about HTML page, I would probably call this about -HTML page. But this works too. I know this is my branch. I'll hit enter. It creates the branch and then it switches to that branch. And if I want to check whether or not it's done that, I can do a git status and it'll let me know you're on branch, Hemery branch, and there is nothing to commit. Working tree is clean, meaning I have not made any changes. I have not made any commits. So we are good to start working. Also, while you're in Visual Studio, if you want to check to see what branch you're on, if you look down here in this left-hand corner, it also tells you that you're on Hemery branch or whatever the name of your branch is. From here, I'm not going to add any extra files. I'm just going to edit this markdown. And I will say, instead of dev.u tutorial, I'll say, welcome to my project. Now go ahead and save that. And then down here, let's do another git status and see what it says. So now, if I do a git status, it recognizes there was a change. And so it says, we're on branch, Hemery branch. There are some changes, not stage. Stage means ready to be committed. And then it gives you some commands that you could use in order to make those commits. So the first thing you need to do before you commit is go ahead and add all the changes. So you go git add space period, and this will add all the files that has been changed. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And again, I'll do a git status just so I can see the progress as we go through it. We hit that. Now it says changes to be committed. So they're staged. Now we're ready to commit. And it lets you know what file was modified, the README file. So now we'll go git commit. And so a commit is you committing that the work that you have here is ready to be pushed up to GitHub, to the remote repository. And so from here, we're going to go git commit -m, which means that I'm going to give a message, start with quotations, and I'm going to say added, nope, let's say modified the README. Another quote, hit enter. And now it says one file change, one insertion, one deletion. So this is telling you the things that has been changed within the file. Again, we'll go git status. And you don't have to do git status every time. It's just good practice to let you know what's going on if you are unsure. All right, on branch, Hemery branch, nothing to commit, working tree clean, meaning that you've made your change. Now it's committed. It doesn't live on GitHub yet, but it's been committed. And from there, we are going to do a git check out main. Now, the main branch is the clean working version of the code that you cloned from GitHub. And the branch that you branched off is just a work in progress, right? It is where you are doing work. And just in case it doesn't go the way that you plan, you're able to delete it and it doesn't affect the main, which is going to be connected to GitHub or the remote repository. So we've done the work on our branch, which is sort of separate. Now we need to bring that work over into what's happening in main. So I'm going to go ahead and check out the main branch. So that means that I'm just switching from my feature branch to the main branch. I'll hit that. And you'll notice that when I go back to the main branch, the text here is different. It's the original text because on the main branch, again, it looks exactly like what's happening in GitHub. So even if you look over in GitHub, at this point, you should see that this is what it reads. But now what we want to do is that we want to update this main branch with the changes that we've made in our separate branch. So to do so, we want to make sure there is nothing new that was committed to GitHub. If you're working on a team, it is possible that someone created other files, someone made modifications. And so you want to make sure that you are always up to date with whatever is on GitHub. So to do that, you would do a git pull origin. And if it says it's already up to date, then you're good. There has been no changes. From there, you're going to say git merge. Now, again, you're currently on main branch and you want to merge in your feature branch. So you need to know what that branch was called. And if you don't know what it was called, you can go git branch. And this will list all of the local branches that you have. And I see in here, oh, there's the main branch. So I'll go git merge, or there's my feature branch. Git merge Hemery dash branch. And what this is going to do is it's going to take the changes that was in the Hemery branch and now bring them over into the main branch. And if you look up here, the change is already made. This reflects something different, solid. So now, again, if you look at GitHub, this change is not there yet because this is all local to your machine. So the last thing we need to do is we need to get it up to GitHub. And what we would do from there is we would do a git push. And once you do a git push, it'll say that it's writing the objects. It'll tell you where it's writing it to. You can click on this and that should pull up your GitHub. And if we look over here in GitHub, if we go ahead and do a refresh, we'll see, welcome to my project. There it is. We've made the update. And the last thing to do is to come back over here in VS Code because we have made the update with our feature is to get rid of that branch again, because we want to keep our working space clean and organized. So you would do a git branch -d, which means delete, and whatever the name of that branch was. And if I do that, I hit enter, it tells me deleted branch, Hemery branch. So now it's gone. And now if I do a git branch, the only branch that should be left is main. Solid. So a quick rundown of what we did. First thing we needed to do is we needed to create our repository. Number two is we need to clone the repo so that we can get it down to our local machine. So you do the git clone. You want to, from the git clone, then you want to open up Visual Studio, make sure you open up that directory, and then switch or create. Switch and. You want to switch and create a new feature branch. Once you have done that, then you go ahead and start to implement your code. do whatever modifications you need, do a save. From there, you do a git add period, which means add all the files that I've just modified to the staging area, because then I'm ready to commit to this work. Once you have done your add, do a git commit -m, throw in the message, some description of what work was done. And from there, go back to your main branch by doing a git checkout main. Make sure that your main branch is up to date with whatever's on the repo, the cloud. Pull it down with the command git pull origin. Once you have seen that it's either up to date or it's pulled in new changes, either way, you're still good. Do a git merge, and then whatever that feature branch is. Again, you want to make sure that you're on the main branch when you do git merge, and you're merging in whatever that new thing is to your from your feature branch to the main branch. And last but not least, it's still on your machine, so we have to get it up to GitHub. So do a git push. And once you do that git push, you should see the update happen to your GitHub. Go ahead and refresh on the repository in GitHub, and then you should either see the new files and all the changes that have been made, or if it's just in that README like we did here, then you will see it reflected immediately on that README landing page, if you will. Come back to VS Code, delete the branch so that your working area is clean, and then you're ready to go back through the cycle once again whenever you get in your new feature. That's it. Write those steps down. It is going to be the same flow over and over. Every now and then, there are going to be some one-offs and some rare occasions of things that's going to happen. And in those cases, case by case, use the Googles out there and figure out the other commands within the world of Git that can help you solve those problems. But for class, and for most of us beginners, this is the flow. Keep it simple. Until next time, deuces.